Hi, and welcome to another edition of That's Crap Detection. I'm Dean Venderman, your host, and today I have a very special guest. I have here with me Kelly Christopherson. He's a teacher, an administrator, a doctoral candidate, and he's the co-founder and lead moderator of one of my favorite things to do on a Thursday night, Sask Ed Chat. How are you doing today, Kelly?
I'm doing fine. Thanks, Dean.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for helping me out here and joining the program. Actually, first thing I was going to say is what a great Ed Chat we had last night. What did you think of the topics?
Oh, I think it was a great topic. I mean, anytime you can have a discussion about breakfast cereal and have it cover all kinds of different topics and be able to have as many people who join in, it's great.
Yeah, no.
So we really appreciate when we can get people to come out and guest moderate, because they bring their own spin, and they help us to enliven the chat and to bring new perspectives to what we're talking about. So yeah, no, it was awesome.
Yeah, no. Well, and for all those guys listening or watching, yeah, that's Thursday night, 8 o'clock Central Time at Sask Ed Chat. So follow that hashtag, Sask Ed Chat, and just great conversations. And that's what led me to meet Kelly. And so I'm really excited about our conversation today. We're just going to focus a little bit on media literacy as part of my project. And so my first question is, can you tell me an experience of fake news or bias in the media or otherwise that you had in your classroom or school? And how did you use this moment as a teachable moment?
Well, having been a social studies teacher for a long time and taught middle years, there's been many occasions where things have come up in the news, or there's been encounters that I've had that you can have discussion with students and talk about everything from who's reporting it, images that are being used, different kinds of things that are happening, that, are they, whose perspective are we seeing? Is there another perspective? This is, can be seen especially in international events. So for example, when you have bombings in certain places that are reported, whereas you can have a bombing in another country that is just as severe, but we never get to see it, because of the different sides that people pick to be able to report on.
Right.
And so, you can have those discussions about why do we see this one and not this one. As an administrator, I guess, one of the things that, not so much as fake news, but dealing with uses of social media for inappropriate purposes, bullying, or for sharing inappropriate information, having dealt with that numerous times, and the whole idea of the power of the visual, the power that it has to be able to influence people, and the repercussions and things that can happen over time that can really have a devastating effect on students, right? And having those discussions to be teachable moments about life in general. And
Right.
so, being able to approach and have those discussions with students as they're taking place, and with parents. And I think that's an important part of the communication that we have, right? Is that I don't know about you, but having a student go home and tell parents that this happened, and when the parents question you, you go, no, that's not what happened,
Exactly.
right? But that whole idea of there's a filter that happens, where people see things and interpret it in specific ways, and we're not necessarily aware of their worldview or where they're coming from. And to be able to, especially as teachers, not necessarily react, but to try and help people understand, and try to understand ourselves, what the perspective is that the person's coming from, and then use those, like I said, in class, to have those discussions about what we're seeing and hearing, and is it from a valid source? How do we know it's a valid source? What do we consider to be a valid source? Those kind of things. So yeah, no, definitely, that's happened quite a numerous times over my career.
Yeah, it's really heartwarming for me to hear that you embrace it. You just don't go, well, that's not what we're covering today. We have to cover, X, Y, Z from the curriculum or whatever. But you're actually having the discussion and letting kids into it, and having them, think for themselves rather than just kind of let it go, because you don't know if the student doesn't have a chance to explore that or not. So being able to embrace that and bring that into the classroom, and sometimes you have to have some hard conversations, and sometimes you just have to agree to disagree with that. But as we have been talking in other conversations, you got to plant that seed, and hopefully it will blossom. For sure. I,
Yeah.
I, I definitely hear what you're saying there. So, we talked about that. So how do you fact check, or what tools do you use for yourself or with students, to find out, get behind the scene a little bit, or what strategies would you recommend for somebody?
Yeah. Well, I do have, like, when I was in the classroom, like there are sites out there like pointer.org or whatkidscando.org, various places where you can go and check out facts and check out reporting, to see kind of where things are coming from and the perspective that people have, and to use those kind of things, especially with kids. I think it's really important not to do it for them, but to, when you have an incident that happens, say, okay, well, let's take a look at this, and have students check out different places to find out, points of view that are being reported and where it's coming from, and to really take a look at um, the message that's being delivered and who's delivering that message. I think is really important for students to begin to see that, depending on your worldview and points of view, messages will come from different things, right? And how we can look at something that is even the same event from different perspectives, depending on the point of view that we have. And
Great.
you see that reported all the time in the news, where one news will, one news agency will report it from one way, and another news agency will report it from a different point of view, right? And they're reporting in the same event.
Great.
And I know I use Common Sense Media and Newsella with
Yeah, that's a good one
students,
too.
right? Just because I feel that you need to give them the opportunity to have those conversations, and like you said, plant the seed and guide them,
Right.
right? Like help them and have those, ask those hard questions, especially when they're adamant about something.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, because definitely there's going to be bias, and whether it's a natural bias that just you have that you just develop on your own, or whether it's a bias that you're actively trying to change somebody's mind to meet your bias. It's definitely a hard sell sometimes to help kids understand that.
Yeah. Well, and it's something that, I know in working with beginning teachers, the whole idea of, you're not there to save students, you're there to help them to learn,
Right.
plant those seeds, help them to see different perspectives, um, but we're not there to save, and we're not there to save across the board. um, and I think that's something that's really important to constantly remind ourselves, like what's best for kids, and how can I help them to become independent learners, thinkers, doers,
Right.
um, and not because we all have, like you say, we all have those biases because we come from particular worldviews, and we're all working
Right.
on them over time, right?
Yeah. And there's
And
other stakeholders involved in the process
oh,
too,
absolutely.
parents or peers, media and stuff too. So definitely sometimes all we can do is plant those seeds for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my last question is basically, there is a lot of sometimes misinformation out there, but how do you find a balance between, being critical thinkers or being cynical thinkers? Like, is the truth out there, like say in the X-Files?
Yeah. Uh, well, I think I think it's very easy to become cynical, um, just because of all the negativity that comes at us, um, and the amount of differing points of view that we're exposed to, especially with the growing number of media and ways to access information.
Right.
But I think that helping students to think critically helps them to overcome that cynicism, right?
That's a
And
good way of looking at it.
yeah, and okay, so we have to be critical about what we're taking in, and um, there are times where you just have to say no. I don't. I'm not going to look at this anymore because it's not helping me, and we don't seem to be getting anywhere.
Right.
Um, right? So you see, especially one of the places that this happens a lot. I mean, it's not world changing, but you see this a lot with a lot of our celebrities,
Yeah.
right? Like negativity and things like that, and they're doing this, they're doing that,
Dirty
and
laundry.
yeah, dirty laundry, and that's just kind of leaked into all aspects of our lives,
Right.
and the whole shaming thing,
Yeah.
where you have people that spend all their time looking for people to shame on the internet because that's what they do, right? And hopefully that you know people can become more conscious of what they're saying and realize that there is no privacy when you're having these conversations.
Right.
So you and I having a conversation, there really isn't. I mean, you're going to post this, you're going to, right? Like we don't have that privacy. So being aware of that
Right.
and being aware that it has repercussions.
Yeah.
So maybe when you're 12 years old and you do something, you shouldn't be held responsible,
Yeah.
when you get older.
Yeah.
Um, but at some point, you need to be responsible for um, your thoughts and actions. And so being aware of that and finding that line between um, being critical about what people are doing and you're doing, but also being able to see positive and to see the good
Right.
and to see the hope and to envision a future that has all of that. Because sometimes with what we're exposed to, we can become very cynical and
Right.
negative. And so, um, you know, being realistic that yeah, there are problems that we have that we have, and we need to be critical of the decisions we make. But there were people working hard. So people like you who are doing, podcasts, and educators that I run across all the time on different social media, and the hard work that they're doing to be positive and change and grow. I think that that's important.
Yeah.
And, we need to realize that,
Right.
be critical of what's happening, and being willing to ask hard questions, and also being willing to have people ask us hard questions.
Right. No, that's a great the point. And the other thing I would probably add to that too is that, like, just like how we're doing here, like take some time to reflect and really think about it before you automatically repost or share, and
Yeah.
then become part of that wave or that tsunami that's out there. Sometimes, just to take a step back, it's kind of like, even in any other conversation, did you really listen and process it before you just kind of like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, and the whole idea that we do live in, an instant Instagram, Snapchat kind of world, and that's something that we have to be consciously aware of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but to also realize that there are a lot of good things that people are doing, and there's a lot of positive things, and not to avoid the negative, um, but to be critical of what's happening around us, so that we can see the positive, and we can um, use that to fuel and to drive us to continue to improve.
Yeah, I definitely like that perspective of the positivity. Uh, I try to be positive with things in life too, and I find positivity usually gets you a lot farther than
It
than,
does.
than the other side of the equation, for
Yeah.
sure. But with that too, even when you're positive, though, you have to definitely temper it with a little bit of critical thinking,
Oh,
and that
absolutely.
for sure makes 100% sense. So I guess the last thing I was just gonna say, is there any other questions or any other anything else you'd like to share with us today?
No, I think that, like I said, being able to um, connect and share with other educators. So I find that, being able to do that, I mean, person to person is really good, with colleagues around me, but also to be able to do that with people that are all over the place, because I have found even in my own career, it's very easy to become um, isolated in where you are, and not isolated as in you don't talk to other people, but echo chamber. You get. Um, I don't know about you as a teacher, but sometimes I find that you just kind of you're doing it, and then you're going through stuff, and you kind of go, okay, where did that week go? Like,
Exactly.
right? Like, I mean, we get busy and there's life,
Yeah.
so having those interactions with other people that are outside my bubble is really important to keeping me focused and to remind me of there's lots of good things going on,
Yeah.
and that this is a moment in time.
Yeah. Well,
And
you
that's,
you you've been tweeting out a lot too. What's the hashtag? My PD today, is that the
yeah, my
hashtag
PD today. Yeah.
today? Yeah, I think that's a really positive hashtag for people to follow. You send a lot of great messages about just being yourself, and seeing that PD is all around us, and to take some time to reflect and all that. And I think that's healthy and gives us a healthy perspective, especially when we're tackling some of these hard questions, like we just talked about, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, like, um, every day like Sask Chat is kind of something that I've been involved with for a long time, and so every day I try and send out a positive reminder to people, teachers that follow Sask Chat, that you're doing good work, and you're facing a lot of different things, but um, I always end off where wherever you are, you're important, you're amazing, you're doing great work, and I think that that's important to remind ourselves,
Yeah,
because um, daily we don't always get that,
true.
right?
Yeah.
And in the news lately, we've been taking a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of less than positive things that are going on, and so my PD today is kind of a way to say, there's PD all around us.
Yeah.
And I think we have to expand what we mean by PD.
Exactly.
It's not just going to a conference. It's 15 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Conversations like this one.
conversations like this one,
Yeah.
and or you read something, or you listen to something. There's a plethora of ways that we can do PD,
Definitely.
um, and all PD is just things that we do to help ourselves become
To
better,
yeah, be better professionals, to professional
right?
development. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that makes,
that's
and
all we need,
yeah, and it's
right?
not just
And
professional too. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of times it's just working on ourselves, because I
yeah,
know I'm a work in progress
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely, right? And I think that's the whole idea, right? Like, I mean, PD, as educators, we tend to think of it as professional, but really it's personal development.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I mean, we're all, like you say, all works in progress, all
Yeah,
trying to get better, all trying to to move forward, um, and sometimes that's hard,
yeah,
um, you know, uh, especially um, especially with people, like, I've been dealing with depression for my whole entire life, and sometimes it's not easy, right?
yeah.
But I think we have to have those conversations that, yeah, I mean, it's something that um, is part of people's lives,
Right,
and there will be really good days and there will be not so good days,
right.
and but it doesn't mean that we're people who have mental health issues, or who are dealing with problems at home, or the plethora of things that go on that we call life.
Right.
um, are bad. It just
Yeah.
means that we're people like everybody else, and we
Exactly.
need each other.
Yeah, and
Um,
then as our position as teachers too, our students are watching us every day too. How are
yeah.
you working through that? How do we have a network that we fall back? How do we model that for our students too? Is a really important part of the equation as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, somebody asked me one time why I do the positive message, and part of it is to help others. Part of it is to help myself, to remind myself that, right, like this is a journey that we're on, and it's things that we do to help one another, but also, we have to be willing to say to ourselves, yeah, I need help,
Yeah.
right? And not be ashamed or afraid to reach out to other people, or to even say, I do this partly because I want to help you, and I do this partly because it helps me,
Right.
right? And doing those things together make us both better
Yeah.
as individuals.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
no, it makes lots of, well, I'm glad you're part of my personal and
yeah,
professional
yeah,
learning
yeah,
and network too, because I know, I like following the Twitter and that, and to see your message come on my feed, it definitely brings a smile to my face, and and also sometimes, warms my heart and kind of gives
yeah.
me that little extra that I need. So I definitely can appreciate and thank you,
Yeah, well,
for
thank you.
doing that.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thank you. I mean, and I think it's important. Like, we benefit from what others do. And so, I mean, I get, like, you share a lot of really good things, right? And it's that whole idea that we're sharing to help each other,
Right.
right? And that's such an important part of the culture, that we're trying to develop and grow,
Right.
through Sask Chat. But
Yeah.
that whole idea that we're all in this together,
Right.
and we need to help one another, and we need to be willing to share and to be open with one another, because that's what helps us move forward.
Right. Well, and I think that kind of brings things full circle as well, because we're talking about fake news, but building stronger communities and sharing with each other
Yes,
openly, and that's a huge part of the solution, for sure. Is that there are people out there you can trust and you can work with, and are building to the common good. So the fake news gets quieter and quieter, the negativity gets quieter, and we lift each other up. I think
absolutely.
that's I like, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time, Kelly. It's a great. I always have great conversations with you, whether it's like this or definitely on Sask Chat and on social media. I appreciate your time. Thanks again. I'm Dean Venderman. Thanks for listening and or watching. This has been another edition of That's Crop Detection. Stay tuned for more, and have a great day.